slight hiccup there, but welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Alienware Arena. We are, of course, covering Week 7. This is going to be the last series here that we cover from Week 7. It's going to be between LGVanisH and PolarJace. And without further ado, let's hop right in, once again, for the last time today, into Antigua Shipyards.
You are watching the Alienware Arena.
And here he is in the top right, previously from Lazarus Gaming. And we can see him, but at any time he might vanish. Oh yeah. As I cast more and more throughout the day, usually my mind starts going, so bear with me, guys. Down in the bottom right, his Protoss opponent playing the red Protoss pieces. It's PolarJace. And I only just noticed, and I'm more saying this to my producer than anything, who's doing the Observer for us. And how about a big round of applause for all you guys watching to Simpatico, who's been doing all of the observing here for me today. But I do I've been doing the zoom in intros, and I don't know. I'm just always observing, no matter what. It's nice to not have to observe, because then when I miss a scroll in or something like that, I don't feel like a huge noob. It's like, oh, don't worry about it. No one saw. It's okay. But yeah, definitely a good shout out to the Observer. A little bit less on my mind as I cast. So Vanish here is going to go for that 15 pool, nothing too aggressive early on. And meanwhile, we do have an interesting high ground pylon here for PolarJace. And Vanish did send his Overlord the right way around, so he's able to spot this immediately. And he's going to park his Overlord here over this pylon, I feel, to try to see exactly what his opponent builds. Because if his opponent goes for a gateway first, you need to completely change your opener as a Zerg. Quite obviously, you're not going to go for that 3 quick hatchery style, but instead are going to be throwing down much quicker gas and trying to get some queens up, perhaps even throwing down some spine crawlers if you feel like your opponent might be going for some 4-gate pressure. But with that being said, we do see here PolarJace realizing, I think, well, I'm going to go into a hypothetical here, or rather come up with a hypothesis. Because I feel like PolarJace, on this 4-player map, knowing his opponent wouldn't scout him likely for quite a while, might have tried something sneaky like a 4-gate. But LGVanisH, he sent his Overlord to the right location immediately, and I think that that might have forced PolarJace to change his build up a bit. Because I want to give him more credit than say, oh, he probably forgot he was playing a Zerg, you know, and just went for the reactionary pylon on the high ground. And when his opponent did scout him that quickly, he said, okay, I guess I'm going to have to play a normal game here, guys. Now, with that being said, the Zerglings are already on the way. 2 of them here are definitely going to sneak right through up into the natural, as the cannon only just got started, and that is really unfortunate here. Things will not be working out too well for Vanish. The Cybernetic score goes down a little bit too late. In fact, the Zerglings are going to go right after that photon cannon. 2 Zerglings can kill a photon cannon faster than it builds. So the probe here will try to buy a little bit of time. The probe will fall. The photon cannon here should get up in time to at least kill one of these Zerglings. It's going to be close. There we see it. The photon cannon, in fact, will manage to kill both Zerglings and survive with 4 HP. We got 2 more Zerglings here coming for Vanish. Now, is this a corner-to-corner? Can the Zerglings get in? Yes, they can. The photon cannon survives with 1 HP. Oh man, Vanish not too happy right now about that shield regeneration rate, I bet. So nonetheless, despite not being able to kill off that photon cannon, Vanish still did force a bunch of probes to get pulled off the line, so that's always nice. And in fact, is now forcing, look at this at the natural ramp, 4 more photon cannons have been queued up by PolarJace. That is pretty ludicrous. And in fact, they've all been queued up by this one probe who is still mining, doing some of that shift-click action. But back at home, it's okay, because Vanish, he's got his extra queens on the way, just building overlords right now, and as many drones as he possibly can. He's starting to get a little bit oversaturated in his main, so he needs to start rallying his main drones towards that natural, towards that third base. And he's going to be in a great position here with 5 photon cannons built total by PolarJace. That's a huge investment here into some static defenses, which may or may not have any use at all throughout this game. And I really say may or may not have any use at all, because these photon cannons on Antigua shipyards, they're nowhere near the actual nexus at the natural. So even if there's some kind of like drop play or Mutalisk harassment, these photon cannons, they're basically defending the cybernetics core. And, you know, having your cybernetics core snipe can be really annoying. You can't warp in any sentries or stalkers. But that's about all of these photon cannons are doing right now, especially considering the really economical play of Vanish right now, who's already up to 42 drones to the 31 probes of his opponent. Now, a bunch of pylons are getting thrown down here by PolarJace. Wants to make sure that there's no Nidus shenanigans coming in, and even more than that, you just want to be able to spot the overlords coming in as soon as possible, so you can set your sentry / stalker onto it and try to minimize the amount of scouting that it will be able to do. We do have, for the second time here, Vanish actually getting supply blocks. So we saw one at 38 supply where he built 2 overlords after getting to 38 supply, and now again at 62 supply, he actually built 4 overlords there. So a little bit of some macro there from Vanish. He's still, though, at 58 drones to the 35 probes of his opponent. And again, that's really due to the fact of these 5 pylons really delaying the probe production here of PolarJace. So PolarJace is going to a robotics facility, and interesting, a Stargate follow-up. Now, we have seen some Sentry Immortal all-ins with some Phoenix play, but actually a second Stargate going down, so it's definitely not going to be any kind of Immortal Sentry play. Sentry is, of course, very gas-intensive, and with a robotics facility and 2 Stargates, you definitely don't have enough gas to build a bunch of Sentries for an Immortal Sentry all-in. 1 Overlord here coming in from the right-hand side for Vanish. Sadly, we'll not get to see anything. These Stalkers here are going to shut it down way before it gets to this robotics facility and double Stargate. Now, likely we're going to see some Void Rays pop out here from PolarJace, and taking a look at the first Stargate, what will it be? Still waiting. Well, that's disappointing. Both Stargates are done, so's the robotics facility, and yet all 3 of those expensive structures haven't done anything. There we have it. Double Void Ray production getting started up, and right now Vanish is getting an infestation pit. Infestors can be quite effective against those Void Rays, but he is on Infestor Roach, so he's not going to have that much gas saved up to go for a lot of Infestors, particularly considering that he's going for +1 missile, +1 carapace, burrow, and the glial reconstitution upgrade, so he's spending a heck of a lot of gas right now, and he doesn't really have too much anti-air. He's got 5 queens total. We don't see any spore crawlers at all, and he doesn't really have any overlords in position to scout. So this is going to be a huge attack coming. We actually see tons of gateways here getting added on as well, and even a robotic space. So this, I mean, Void Ray Colossus is a really, really potent composition for Protoss, not only against Zerg, but versus Terran versus Protoss as well. It's just a very strong combination of units. And PolarJace here looks like he's just going to really power up for a while on 2 bases and hit a 2-base all-in somewhere around the 14-15 minute mark here, because he's now even getting a Twilight Council, maybe to start getting that +2 attack upgrade on his Forge. We'll have to wait and see. He is also at the Cybernetics Core getting his +1 air weapons. Meanwhile, we do have a 4th base just about to finish at the gold. Keep in mind, this is the Blizzard Antigua shipyard, so we do have gold bases, and getting some drones mining from those gold minerals will, of course, be quite effective. The first Colossus is now on the way at that robotics facility. The Roaches, though, are going to start getting aggressive here at the front, and the Void Rays will be revealed. So Vanish right now knows that there's a bunch of Void Rays, and we should see How many did he see? Okay, he's just going to go for the Hydralisk Den right now. Not going to be throwing down a bunch of Spore Crawlers. I feel like that's a risky play because when you see he saw at least 4 Void Rays there, you don't know how many extra Void Rays your opponent might have, and there's the reaction I expected. The mass Spore Crawler. 4 Spore Crawlers going down in the main. 4 at the natural, 4 at the third, and I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 at the gold base as well. And it's just kind of what you need to do when there's that many Void Rays, because there's no coming back into a Void Ray game. If your opponent attacks you with Void Rays and you are not prepared, they just cascade so quickly and there's just nothing you can do. You're never going to be able to rally together enough Hydralisks. They're just going to die here and there as they rally out. Same thing with Corruptors. And in fact, Corruptors aren't even a very strong unit against those Void Rays. Void Rays, of course, doing that extra damage versus armored units. So we do have Vanish up on 4 bases against his opponent on 2 base, but it is a super strong army composition. I want to emphasize that coming from Vanish, which needs to be dealt with very appropriately. Colossus, Void Ray, and now a Dark Shrine going up. And I don't think it's a Dark Shrine particularly to make Dark Templar. I think it's more going to be to make some Archons. And the reason he goes for a Dark Shrine instead of a Templar Archives is because he's already spending absolutely all of his gas on Colossus and on Void Rays. And so by going for the Dark Shrine, Dark Templar actually cost less gas than High Templar do. So you're able to invest that gas a little bit more efficiently and still get the Archons out that you would like, but just, yeah, spending a bit less gas. Now, with that being said, we do have a huge Roach Hydra Force here by Vanish, amassing outside that natural. The Void Ray count has stopped at 4. The Colossus count is only at 2 right now. Extended Thermal Lance is not done. He never got Extended Thermal Lance, and that is going to be a huge problem because the Hydralisks do have that extra range. They've got that 6 range. So that means that Hydras and Colossus have the same range. Now, the 2 Colossus here are stuck at the front. Fungal Growth going down, keeping them stuck, and the Hydras here trying to do what they can. The second Colossus will fall as well. The Void Rays just get decimated, and that's going to be it. Vanish there, just crushing through. PolarJace unable to properly control his units. The Colossus got pulled forward, so did the Void Rays, and once they got pulled forward, those Infestors jumped right into action, getting those fungal growths down, keeping them from pulling back. One Colossus rallies right out into the Roaches and Hydras and will get taken out quickly. There's the HH, which means a good game by PolarJace, and Vanish will take game 1. So that was a rather long game for an unfortunately anticlimactic ending. Vanish there just seeming like the stronger player. PolarJace really didn't make enough probes early on, partially because he invested so many minerals into those photon cannons. And thereafter, I mean, I think he also didn't get his gases quite quickly enough. If you're planning on going for a Colossus, Void Ray, and possibly Archon, or even Dark Templar play, you really need to get those gases extremely quickly. You don't need too many minerals. The gas to mineral ratio is extremely high. And so, unfortunately, PolarJace there also at the end didn't have the strongest control of his army, wasn't able to use the wall to his advantage at all, and in fact, didn't even use the choke to his advantage. He actually moved his army into the choke, which then allowed Vanish, who was outside of the choke at the bottom of the ramp, some great surface area and have all of his units engage. So Vanish up 1-0 right now in this series, and we'll see if PolarJace has another interesting strategy which he can use in this next game to try to tie things up. We are actually going to go into a quick little break here, guys, so take a second, go to alienwarearena.com/SC2, and we'll be right back in just a moment with Game 2. Ladies and gentlemen, to the Alienware Arena. We're covering Week 7 here, and we've got our last series of the day. The score's already 1-0 in favor of LGVanisH over PolarJace, but we are going to Cloud Kingdom, PolarJace's choice of a map, and some people might even call it Protoss Kingdom. And let's hop right in and see what PolarJace has in store.
You are watching the Alienware Arena.
So last game, we saw this Zerg player who's spawning in the top right. Maybe not quite produce a magic trick, but definitely played a solid game. It is LGVanisH. And to the bottom left, going for an old school kind of powerhouse style composition of units. It's our red Protoss, PolarJace. And PolarJace here, once again, is throwing down his pylon at the back of his main mineral line. He is sending out a probe scout here, going to try to figure out what his opponent is up to. Now, on Cloud Kingdom, the pylon behind the mineral line doesn't necessarily mean anything shenanigan-y or crazy, because you can still easily put your forge behind, and there we see PolarJace doing just that. And thereafter, you can build a pylon on the low ground, build a cannon, and then wall off with a gateway, cybernetics core, and said pylon. So you still put yourself in a safe position behind a wall, and what ends up happening is you reveal your cybernetics core to your opponent, so he can see if you're using chrono boost on that cybernetics. Oh, hold that thought, because we actually have a pylon going down across the map for PolarJace right now. He is going to try to do some photon cannon shenaniganry, and this is a great position for this pylon. The spawning pool is right there, and PolarJace hasn't spotted the spawning pool, but he is going to be so happy when he does. Uh-oh, is this probe caught back there? This probe might be caught back there. We'll wait and see. But he is going to be able to put a photon cannon in range of that spawning pool, and that is going to make it so annoying for LGVanisH. We do see LGVanisH trying to probe around his main base with a drone to see for any proxies, and he does see something building on the right-hand side. He's going to send a couple of drones here, but the photon cannon is already just about complete. The probe was not caught back there. A lot more drones getting pulled offline, and this is a mistake by LGVanisH. He's going to lose so many drones here to this photon cannon. Oh no! Trying to engage a photon cannon after it completes is so costly, and we now see more and more drones getting pulled off the line. The first photon cannon will fall, but already 5 drones have died, and we do see that now with the Zerglings out, the drones should be able to go back to work, and the Zerglings will easily clean up this pressure. Now, with that being said, we saw 5 drones got killed, so that means that right now it's 13 probes to 10 drones. So obviously PolarJace cut probe production so that he could go for that photon cannon rush. So LGVanisH, despite losing so many drones, isn't in a terrible position. And in fact, PolarJace gonna just try to create a wall off at the top of his ramp instead of actually creating the wall off at the entrance to his natural. And I feel that this is a huge mistake right now for him, because he could just as easily secure the low ground as the high ground. And we do see the Zerglings here coming across the map for LGVanisH. There is a couple of photon cannons going up behind that mineral line, but those Zerglings can actually get to work on the Nexus right now, and there's no gateway to build a Zealot or anything like that, and 6 Zerglings will take down a Nexus a lot faster than you'd think. So we'll have to see here exactly how PolarJace reacts, because he needs to get some photon cannons closer to this Nexus. And there we see it, the 6 Zerglings getting to work on that Nexus, and we see, uh-oh, the probes are actually accidentally attacking the Nexus there right quickly. 6 Zerglings going to get some good surface area on those probes, and quite a few of them here already going down. 4 of the Zerglings, rather, do escape, and now they're going to go back to work on the Nexus, and I think that that's the better choice here for LGVanisH, is to just attack the Nexus, and if the probes get pulled, just run away. This is a lot of mining time that's being lost for PolarJace. We do see Vanish deciding to engage. He kills off 2 more probes. That's going to bring him to a total of 5 probe kills. One of the Zerglings there does get surrounded, and the last Zergling here going to content itself with trying to kill off the pylon at the top of that ramp. Now, meanwhile, back at home, Vanish, he's been busy. He's been building drones and drones and drones and drones. You could call him Liquid Ret. Wish you could follow at Liquid Ret. And he's going to follow up all of that droning with a couple of gases as well as a roach warren. So we're going to see a roach follow-up attack here coming from Vanish. Judging by the timing on the roach warren, it's not going to be a glial reconstitution. We're not going to see a lair. We're not going to see a +1. We're just going to see a lot of roaches here coming from our Zerg player. And he's just going to try to break through and kill off his opponent here, who has a very delayed tech. He's got a bunch of photon cannons, but with the Zerglings, of course, with that melee range, aren't able to deal with that Nexus and take it out. But the roaches with that 4 range will be able to outrange the cannons that are all the way on the other side of the Nexus and really put some strong harassment. So we see the first 5 roaches here are on the way, and every time Vanish gets enough resources for more roaches, he is investing right into it there, just adding them on tick by tick, one by one. And I like going tick by tick for Zerg because tick is a kind of bug. It's like a flea. It's like lice. No. Wait, tick is the one that goes under your skin and gets infected. Yeah, that's the fun one. Ticks are the worst. That's why you wear pants if you go walking in long grass, ladies and gentlemen. That's a pro tip for life. But a couple of Zealots now pushing out for PolarJace. They're sadly going to run into a bunch of roaches in the middle of the map. And unfortunately, Zealots do not do that well against roaches. Will PolarJace pull them back in time? It looks like no. Both of those Zealots will go down. Some slight micro there going down from Vanish, trying to be as effective as possible. And overall, he's got 12 roaches on the field. He's just building a couple of Overlords, and I'm sure we're going to see some more roaches coming from Vanish. And PolarJace, he has some minerals, but he doesn't have any pylons in position to actually protect that Nexus. He's only got 1 photon cannon at the front, and sadly his cybernetics core is there as well. Some nice micro there by Vanish, pulls back his roach. He hasn't lost a single one yet, and PolarJace, he's got nothing producing at that gateway. I think he's kind of resigned himself to lose this game. He's going to pull all of his probes off the line, but there are so many roaches here. They're actually not even engaging the probes just yet. Now they're going to start taking them down. There's no chance for those probes to engage this many roaches, and there's only more and more of them pushing out across the map. So as these probes here will fall, PolarJace is down to just 5 supply, and that number continues to plummet. He's got 2 probes left. That is it. He pulls the probes back. Not much that he can do. The Nexus will fall. The probes are trying to escape, but they will not be able to, so there's no chance to even build a Nexus somewhere else out on the map. And these roaches now just going to clean up the last of these buildings. There's nothing left for PolarJace except a bunch of money in the bank, but doesn't even have any supply to use it with. He's down to 0 out of 0 supply. And we're just going to see here Vanish work through these buildings. PolarJace not quite wanting to leave the game. He's going to wait until he gets forced out of it. Unhappy that he got 2-0'd, I'm sure. But that will be our last series of the day. Vanish taking it 2-0. And PolarJace not too happy about it. So I'm going to call it. That's going to be it. GG. We don't need to see the Cybernetics Core and Gateway fall. Vanish there. Made it look easy. But in the end, PolarJace, you know, he didn't build enough photon cannons at his opponent's main base. He was trying to go for this interesting cannon rush. And I say interesting cannon rush because cannon rushes aren't necessarily the strongest thing to use against a Zerg, because obviously creep just automatically halts the progression of your cannons, but he could have done some really significant damage since the spawning pool placement wasn't in a very safe location. So he only put down 1 photon cannon, however, at first, and unfortunately that 1 photon cannon got killed off by a bunch of drones. The next photon cannon definitely was way too late to lend any assistance to that first photon cannon, and photon cannon, photon cannon, photon cannon, photon cannon. So without those photon cannons, Vanish able to easily counterattack. and unfortunately PolarJace unable to hold. So with that being said, it's a 2-0 for Vanish. He is able to take out that series. We're going to do a quick recap here for the Alienware Arena. Our first series was, of course, Clarity's... I almost always just automatically say M. Kenjin, but he is going as Clarity's Engine right now against Proficient. He was able to win 2-1. In the second series, we had DDE playing Zerg. So indeed, the Canadian former Terran player playing Zerg, able to 2-0 his opponent Osh in that second series. In the third series, we had Breath 2-1ing Convolution in a Protoss versus Zerg there. In the fourth series, we had Elute taking out Gruffzar 2-1. Gruffzar, the random player, able to play some pretty solid games for a random player. Definitely want to give him the credit there, but Elute able to edge him out 2-1. And of course, we just saw it, Vanish versus PolarJace. Vanish taking that series 2-0. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. It was a blast. I'm Katu. I've been filling in today and yesterday for Frodon and Clutch. I know Clutch is sick, so hopefully he gets better as soon as possible. Being sick is really no fun, but unfortunately does happen in the winter. You've got to drink orange juice. It's got that vitamin C. It's got tons of sugar. Keeps your immune system strong. Of course, make sure to go check out alienwarearena.com/SC2 for there's keys available for Heroes of New Earth, Blacklight Retribution, Battlefield 3, and Mass Effect 3. We've also got registration going on for the CSGO tournament and the League of Legends tournament. Both of them have a $1,750 prize pool. Of course, that's on the NA server for the CSGO and League of